CT has stepped out for a meeting that he needed to go to. So it's me and Ndu who are here. Ndu
Yes.
will tell us about school fees.
Yes.
Yes.
You know what?
What?
There's someone in the studio with us this morning.
Yes.
And one thing that is very clear in my mind was the Scouts, or is the Scouts movement,
Mm-hmm.
right? And how they had to show up. Scouts, top to bottom, had to be immaculate in terms of, how you look, how you dressed, etc. Polished shoes and all of that was one of them. As the patron of the Scouts, you knew this, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
And they were part of schools, obviously. Students in schools who wanted to be part of the Scouts. Schools is where everybody's showing up for the last 2 weeks, and school fees is an issue. Step Up and Shine with Kiwi has been part of your journey in school, and sometimes when you're looking for school fees, not quite sure where to look. So Kiwi says, all right, how about an answer for you? Walk into any store today, supermarket, Duka shop, get a tin of Kiwi.
Yep.
Right? Pop the lid. There's a code under that. Now, *459, *5 hash. *459, *5 hash. Put in the code. Instantly, airtime, data is yours. And then you get a chance to enter into a draw. 4 people every week are winning 35,000 shillings, and it goes directly to school fees. So you can step up and shine in how you look, and you can step up and shine by getting to school.
Oh, yes. And a very, very big thing. Our guest is the Honorable Stephen Kalonzo Musyoka, former Vice President, the last Vice President of Kenya, and the leader of the Wiper Democratic Movement Party. Your Excellency, good morning.
Good morning, Eric.
Welcome to the hot seat of the Situation Room.
Indeed, honored to be here so early in the new year. Allow me to say Happy New Year to you, Eric and Ndu. But where I come from, our name is Nduku.
I'll take that from you for today.
She knows it. She knows she's Nduko. Much as she may deny it.
Okay.
So you've heard that it's about Kiwi and what Kiwi is saying. You want to support somebody. I'm sure you sponsor many people. You've sponsored many people through with school fees over the years. This year also, you can support them by buying for them Kiwi as they go to school, because they definitely will need shoe polish in school. And as you purchase the shoe polish for them, then they also get into a draw for school fees, and they may also win school fees.
Very innovative.
Very, very innovative.
But I heard Nduku talk about the scouting movement.
Yes.
And that goes to my heart, because one time I served as Chief Commissioner of Kenya Scouts. And the Scouts are always prepared, and I'm sure when they polish their shoes and look immaculate, that prepares them for the tasks ahead. So scouting is critical, and young boys and girls, and the scouting movement has actually in this country grown in leaps and bounds. So, well done, Kiwi.
Very good. You met with CT as he was stepping out to go for a meeting.
Yes, I did.
And he explained to you that he's not boycotting your presence. You may think, he boycotted. No, he's not boycotting your meeting.
You guys are great.
Yeah,
you're doing a great job. And he stopped by. We greeted each other. And I got the impression it was like a man trying to catch a flight.
Yes, something like that.
Yeah.
Closer to that. If you were here, he'd have given you the day's proverb. Every week, City goes to one African country. He scouts for proverbs. See what I did there? Scouts for proverbs in that country, and then brings us a proverb a day from that country. This week, he's decided we are in Nigeria. And he's been giving us the proverbs in Pidgin. And then Ndu gives us a proverb in proper Pidgin. And then the job of our guest is to translate that from Pidgin to English, and then you give us your interpretation of it.
Wow.
Now that CT is not there, so we're skipping the CT bit. We are going straight to Ndu, and Ndu will tell you the proverb in Pidgin. Remember it?
So,
rice bottom of pot today, tomorrow top of freezer. Say it.
So what in Pidgin it would be jollof rice, where day for bottom pot today.
Wow.
Good day on top cooler tomorrow.
Oh, Pidgin English. Reminded of this Nigerian who walks into a cafe in London, and he speaks in Pidgin. He's asked, do you want a cup of coffee? Do you want it black or white? He looked at this man. He said, a discrimination. in a cup of coffee too.
As well.
Nigerians, they make us proud. Not good in pidgin English, but I can't even understand. I can't remember what you said. When you
Say it
started.
again.
Jollof rice. So it's
Jollof
kind of
rice.
Jollof rice. Where they for bottom pots today.
Bottom
Good
pot.
day on top cooler
Oh my
tomorrow.
goodness. Top cooler tomorrow. I have no idea.
The rice at the bottom of the pot today
Yes.
could be on top of the cooler tomorrow.
Ah. Yeah. So, don't you ever laugh at anybody in the streets. You don't know what they'll become tomorrow. Or any child. Even if you see they have saliva pouring and you don't demean a human being. I guess that's what it means. Yeah.
It's very, very true. And that's it. Mheshimiwa, in the news today, yesterday you and the leadership of Wiper had a meeting. And after that, we'll be discussing the Wiper Democratic Party movement party. But also, after that, you made a comment on what's been happening in the country. And this is the supposed attack by the leadership of the country in the executive on the judiciary and the response from the judiciary. Twice now, the chair of the Judicial Service Commission, the Chief Justice, has come out to say, look, if there is any suspicion of corruption in the judiciary, bring the evidence and follow due process.
Yeah.
And we have structures established. And then the Chief Justice stood with her fellow commissioners of the Judicial Service Commission and said, we welcome any evidence and also would like to have a conversation with the head of the executive and the other heads to hear what issues are these that you're bringing up now that you have with the judiciary. Can we have a conversation? You have come out and said, that is a wrong move, Madam Chief Justice, to invite the president to a meeting about this issue.
Or to be invited.
Or to be invited
Discuss the
by
same.
the president to a meeting. Why would you say it's a wrong move?
Well, first of all, we, as you say, we had our party's National Executive Council yesterday. And after that, we were talking to the media. This year, I've decided to adopt a hashtag fidelity to the Constitution. Madam Justice Martha Koome is the president of the Supreme Court. She's also the chairperson of the Judicial Service Commission.
Yes.
And the mandate of the Judicial Service Commission is really to look at integrity of all the judicial officers, including their welfare. And therefore, to be invited by the executive, the other arm of government, I think we need to remind ourselves as Kenyans all the time that there are three pillars of government. The executive, the legislature, and the judiciary. And I think this time I've chosen, not just because I'm a practitioner and a counsel.
Senior counsel.
Yeah, senior counsel, if you like.
Yes, not if I like.
An
it.
advocate, but actually advocate of the High Court of Kenya. And therefore, to some extent, maybe one can think chest thumping or anything. Far from it. Constitution 2010 is our sacred document. And if we act in a manner that demeans the principle of separation of powers, then we're inviting anarchy. Therefore, I stand solidly with the remarks made by the President of the Supreme Court, our leadership, and ask her to remain vigilant. Because I can't understand why herself or the president would want to say, let's meet and discuss these things.
What's wrong with meeting, Your Excellency?
Well, there's nothing wrong with meeting. They don't even need to announce that they are meeting. I'm quite sure when we have state functions, the Chief Justice is always out there along with the Deputy Chief Justice and others. But why make an announcement? They are meeting to discuss what? This is where the issue is. They are meeting to discuss issues to do with governance within the judiciary. Well, the president should restrict himself to governance within the executive. Therefore, an announcement that goes to say they are going to meet and iron out differences is for me, unfortunate. And that's what we said.
Do you think it is undermining the independence of the judiciary?
Not only undermines the independence of the judiciary, it raises serious suspicions. Remember, the deputy to William Ruto openly said that on Thursday he's actually going to lead a procession, or is going to petition, is going to see the Chief Justice carrying a petition against a High Court judge, whom he actually, unfortunately, goes even to name publicly. That goes against all the known rules of practice and decency, and I call it an absurdity. If indeed Mr. Gachagua is going to walk to the Chief Justice carrying a petition, for me, the world should be watching, because I don't expect this country to have fallen to that level.
Are you saying that he shouldn't?
He shouldn't. It would be a shame
if
he does.
If he has an issue,
and if trying to be a judge in his own course, because he's complaining that this particular judge passed a ruling against him. The normal thing is to have done an appeal or whatever, but not to talk about himself. And a person at that level, making it look like the judiciary has to do with only Gachagua, is unfortunate.
Mheshimiwa, if Geoffrey Rigathi Gachagua, as an individual, feels that he was taken to court and the way the judge conducted themselves in a particular case was not proper, and he has issues to raise about the conduct of this particular judge, maybe he even has evidence to show that there was influence in the conduct of the judge, should he not raise it?
He should, but the normal thing is, I'm sure he had the representation, because when I last checked, I don't think Gachagua was a lawyer to be able to go and do that, and a person at his level should have proper legal representation. I think his advocate is failing in his duty in trying to advise him on the avenues that are open for that kind of dialogue.
Does the law say that you must use a lawyer to file a complaint against the judge?
Not necessarily. You know, there are, in criminal matters, for example, an accused person can even represent themselves. And they can even at other times call off representation if they were properly represented by advocates. They can say, no, in this case, I'll represent myself. Okay? That is normal for persons accused of committing various crimes. But again, at the level of a person, of a deputy president of a country, going before the Chief Justice to represent himself, tells you a number of things. And here, we are dealing with a heavy matter. And Kenyans have not even come to terms with what actually happened. Okay? Because it's soon after an election, and a judgment had been made that monies were corruptly obtained or something to that effect. I didn't even follow the details of this case. But the person holding the office of deputy president surely should act with decorum in matters to do with respecting other state institutions. In this case, the judiciary. And if it happens that he's using this occasion, the debate about whether we should have fidelity to the rule of law or whether we should just sing choruses in the streets and malign the conduct and the practice of the law, then I think the whole thing is taken completely out of context.
Let me come back to the issue of the invitation to a meeting between the president and the head of the judiciary. And you say you have serious issues with this. Previous Chief Justices, the Chief Justice Emeritus David Maraga, Chief Justice Emeritus Professor William Mutunga. Professor Mutunga,
before them.
Professor Mutunga told us about the relationship that he had with the two heads of the executive, Mwai Kibaki and then Uhuru Kenyatta. And he said he would seek dialogue with the president when there were issues. When there's an issue of a recommendation for the appointment of judges, and there would be delay, he went and had a conversation with President Kibaki and said, what is the issue? And the president told him, these are the issues that I have with the judges. And they had a conversation on the appointment of the judges, and it happened. He also sought meetings with President Uhuru Kenyatta, and they had a conversation because the president would have reservations about taking certain action that is expected of him, and the Chief Justice would come to him to have a conversation on why not. Chief Justice Emeritus was complaining once, twice, on having sought meetings with President Uhuru Kenyatta and Uhuru not even responding to him, and saying because of this, we then have a complete clash and a breakdown of communication between these two crucial arms of government. If the judiciary is not having a conversation with the executive, and the executive seems to be disobeying court orders, the head of the executive is known to have publicly made statements about the judiciary, and I'm seeking meetings with him, we're having a problem with the judiciary. So you look at those two. One where a Chief Justice says, I have sought and secured meetings with the president and resolved matters and ironed out issues, and we have had a smooth operation of the judiciary. I've gotten money, I've started building courts. Another one where a Chief Justice says, I have sought meetings to understand what the issues are, and I am not even getting that, and that's why we are having issues that we are having. And then we have a third Chief Justice who says, I'd like to have a conversation. But you say, she shouldn't.
Oh, okay. I see your point, Eric. But do you remember, you're given a catalogue of situations. I think there's another situation, rooms between the judiciary and the executive. Do you remember ever Chief Justice Emeritus William Mutunga or Justice Maranga going public to say, I'm looking for a meeting with the president? This is no more in the course of business. No more course of business.
Maraga openly sought a meeting. He addressed the public at the steps of the Supreme Court saying,
I can actually
Mr.
tell you.
President, I have written to you several times asking for a meeting, and I am now also asking for a meeting.
Okay, that was Maranga. He's actually my classmate. I can tell you this, that should not happen ordinarily. A Chief Justice should not go out and say, I want to meet the president. The level of cooperation at that, when you're looking at two independent institutions, the judiciary and the executive, right, should be seamless, absolutely seamless. It should not have even been allowed to get to that stage. And therefore, my view is going public. Even when Maraga did that, it meant there was there was a problem. If I remember once at a discussion with President Uhuru Kenyatta with regard to the appointment, remember the 6 judges whom William Ruto saw in day one when he took over as president, because he had actually made it a campaign issue. I can tell you that according to Uhuru, right, and that was a normal discussion between colleagues. He had issues, even raised issues with embassies. A lot of them had issues that a country like America said, if this particular judge was involved in that on Akasha, drug trafficking case and things that ordinarily you not bring to the public domain. That should be normal between a president and a Chief Justice. But when they're beating drums, say, let us meet to discuss, I will take a different view. A senior counsel even.
Okay.
Yeah.
Maybe we can shift gears just a little bit.
Yeah.
In the last couple of weeks, you made very clear where you stand. And if you can look at your history, obviously, in roles in which you've played. We're talking about peace talks regionally. Somalia and Sudan, or South Sudan, stand out very glaringly. And if we look at last year, in the last 6 months, and then coming into this year, with the national dialogues, always been pinpointed as somebody who would then be able to bridge gaps, bridge divides. And then you came very clearly, and quite boldly so, very early in the game, and said, not for the first time, that you want to be president of the country and your campaigns start now. What fuels that decision and the timing of it?
I think we should do and do
Yes.
I find that a bit intimidating.
The name or okay.
the pronunciation.
Right.
Very exciting, actually. And I thank you for having taken a look at my past. I actually went into politics very young, at 31. All right. And that was in 83 when I first ran and lost. And then I won in a subsequent by-election in 1985. I remained in politics until Constitution 2010 made it imperative that if you are running for office of either the president or the deputy president, then you would not be elected as a member of parliament. I think we made a mistake on that. And I later will probably, time allowing, want to comment on the fact that a constitution is actually a living document. It should not be static. So those proponents, for example, the Building Bridges Initiative, who unfortunately got things politicized, and we missed an opportunity, in my view. And that opportunity actually been creeping through the back door, including the National Dialogue Committee, which I was privileged to co-chair. But, over time, because I grew up in a situation in Sekuru where I used to hide from marauding bandits, my own mother would hide me. We would sleep not at home for fear of getting houses torched and things. I grew up wondering, thinking the world should be better than this. So when an opportunity arose for me to play a role, first of all, I thought of Somalia. I remember I met the late General Aidid. You may have forgotten about that person because he took over from the first president who eventually died, actually, I think, in Nigeria in 1991, the overthrow of Siad Barre.
Yep.
I met Aidid, and I was foreign minister, and he actually told me we will make sure there's peace between our borders, between Kenya and Somalia. Oh, I had that personal interest that at least then young kid growing where he was born will have easy approach to life. They can go to school without having to hide in the bushes. And of course that issue grew to extent that I found myself shepherding the peace process between the warring factions in Somalia. And we had the famous Bagathi talks, for example. That time I was foreign minister twice, actually, and Kibaki. I was foreign minister under Mzee Moi and Kibaki. Both leaders have rested. And it gave me opportunity to grow in diplomacy. And then my passion to work for regional peace. Peace at home and peace in the region. One time I used to work for a company. You may have heard of a gentleman called Manu Chandaria, one of the famous industrialists.
Yep.
He gave me a job. Actually, he had handed for me, and he gave me a job as his legal officer to try and reclaim properties that had been expropriated by General Idi Amin, the group companies like Mabati Uganda, Mabati Limited, and companies in Tanzania. But when he gave me that job, the border between Kenya and Tanzania was closed. To travel to Arusha in order to service group companies like Kibo March and others, I had to obtain clearance from State House Dar es Salaam, and I'll get that clearance at the border in Amanga. I just wanted to see how far we've come. There was such tension between Kenya and Tanzania. Itself a result of the collapse of the East African community in 1977. A terrible mistake. And so then again, opportunity arose for me to work to resolve that situation. I became interestingly the first chair of the tripartite ministerial committee that was charged with the responsibility of jump-starting a mesh of East African community. See how far we've come. Yeah. And then the Prime Minister, current, I think, Prime Minister of Uganda, Rubandiri, and Foreign Minister of Tanzania, here at the KICC, that's where we were meeting, the KICC, which William wants to privatize. Okay. We then were able to start the community. So I think that my passion is in making sure there's regional integration, working, free movement of goods and whatever. So the community today And by the way, your viewers or listeners may want to note that the current European Union, as constituted, European Union Commission, right, was fashioned along the lines of the East African Community, which we collapsed in 1977 because of politics, regional politics of misunderstanding. And I see, as we speak today, the possibility that we're going back that way, because Kenya is not at peace with our neighbors, which is unfortunate. And so, yeah, then of course I made it clear that we will be having this conversation. Yesterday, at my party's executive committee meeting, there was the urge to move and get ready for the next contest. If that contest will be in 2027 or earlier, you never know. You never know. Then we'll be there. And by the way, it is not the first time we are running. We ran in 2007.
Yep.
Yes.
We ran. And we ran so strongly that Kenyans and friends may remember, they used to say, even William jokingly would always, if he wants to have a go at me, say, yule mtu wa katikati. Okay? Yule mtu wa katikati. Because I said, I saw that time, these two giants, my friend Raila and Kibaki, right? Without me saying, they had their tribal blocks behind them. The problem in this country has been negative ethnicity. And I said, let me separate these tribal giants coming from where I do. Again, remember the story I told you about Syed Barre and the story of Aidid. I felt this man from Sekuru can bring this country together. And as it turned out, that's how I became our country's 10th vice president. You say the last vice president? Of course not. It's just terminologies, I think. But the roles are the same.
I think I've heard you say that before. When it comes to vice presidents, you were the last one to hold that office, and then the others have been deputies since then.
Yeah, but say the 10th. I think it's
10th
more
vice
appropriate.
president.
The 10th vice president of the republic, because that is history.
Yeah.
That is our own history. The good, the bad, and the ugly.
We carry it as long.
Yeah.
Let's take a break. 25 minutes to 9. We're having a conversation with the Honorable Stephen Kalonzo Musyoka, the party leader of the Wiper Democratic Movement Party, the 10th Vice President of the Republic. He says he wants to be on the ballot in the next election. It's 2027 constitutionally. Kalonzo is saying you never know.
You never know. It could be early.
I don't know what he knows. He'll tell us. Maybe he knows something. We'll be back shortly. Keep it here.
Ladies and gentlemen, and the winner is... Yes, it's that time again for the Pulse Music Video Awards. We need you to come out to vote and support your favorite artist, music videos, song genres, producer, video vixen, DJ, collabos, and more. Can they count on you to take home the prestigious Pulse Music Video Awards in each of their categories? To vote, visit www.standardmedia.co.ke/PMVA/ to vote just once, but show more love for your favorites through text by sending the word PMVA followed by your nominee code to 22845 as many times as possible. Voting closes on the 26th of January 2024. Don't miss out. Proudly sponsored by Infinite Pulse Music Video Awards, the only way to get alive.
Marisa, right? Do you really like me? You know I'm from a political family, right? I have to have a woman worthy of my stature, like Elise, and find someone on your level.
You already have everything you could possibly want. You even treat other people like they're your property. I am not interested in him. You lied to me. Elise! No! Marisa! Elise, you killed Victor. Dad, I didn't mean to do it. I was just defending myself. There's no need for Elise to go to the precinct, sir. I was the one who killed Victor Montelibano.
Your daughter already
Take
confessed.
it away from me, my dear.
Why did you allow Marisa to take the fall for me?
I will give her 10 million.
But Dad, it's Marisa.
Please don't abandon my Marissa.
Hi guys, my name is JB the Cowgirl. I'm a classical opera gospel artist. He'll lift and turn to buy my pardon. You can catch me at 6 p.m. Saturday on Behind the Music, KTN Home. Bye-bye! Because Jesus lives, oh, I can face my 2024.
We'll see, but now we're looking at Landy's heavy with traffic. Gong Road traffic is also starting to pick up, so let's keep an eye on these things right about now. Morning traffic is normal at this point. Let's talk on Spice FM KE on X.
Are you ready? Okay.
Spice FM. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice FM.
20:09, we continue our conversation with the Wiper Democratic Movement Party leader Kalonzo Musyoka, who says he wants to be in the ballot next time there's a presidential election. There are those who have said, Mheshimiwa, that Kalonzo plays a game where he wants to negotiate for himself up to the very last minute. Look back at when you left KANU together with the others and went and formed the National Rainbow Coalition with those in the NAK. Those of you in LDP then by 2015, in the 2005 referendum, you formed ODM. And then Kalonzo went and formed ODM-K and left the others with ODM and went alone in this election. And then later, even with Wiper, even in the last election, when these leaders that you are friends with and you're having conversations with were talking about forming Azimio, Kalonzo was talking about forming One Kenya. And in the very end, you still ended up with the Azimio One Kenya and you coming in with One Kenya. And the people you were forming One Kenya with left you and went to Kenya Kwanza. So why Kalonzo plays alone until the very last minute where he seems to be negotiating something for himself?
No. Eric, I've never been a selfish leader. I've always been guided by what is in the best interest of our people and our nation. The problem, I think, has been that I've been principled. My word is my bond. And so when I have a situation where you say one thing today, you agree with friends and colleagues on this thing, and then you find they've all been approached overnight and they disappear, like happened with the friends you talk about with regard to One Kenya Alliance, right? When some of our colleagues went to join Kenya Kwanza, it's understandable. But it is me who remained solid and convinced that the ideals which you espoused in terms of, for example, servant leadership and ability to make sure we give this country the kind of leadership that it deserves. That has always informed my positioning. Therefore, the journey from LDP, by the way, it was me with my friend Dennis Kode who formed LDP, and my brother Raila Odinga eventually joined, and of course the Rainbow Coalition, which brought Kibaki into office. When the mood of the country in 2002, when this country was adjudged the most optimistic nation on earth, because we had the most democratic election, and the outcome was so impressive. I remember Mzee Moi was trying to urge me to stick with KANU, and he came all the way on the Mombasa Road, and I remember I used the words sitingiziki. I will not change, because the moment you take a position, a coalition, I believe in, and like now we are in Azimio la Umoja One Kenya coalition. I believe in it. If people run away from it, it is not Kalonzo Musyoka is changing, but them. Okay, and you wanted to look at that in the history. When I then chose to run in 2007, by the way, the history of ODM and ODM Kenya, Eric, you got it wrong.
What came first?
ODM Kenya. All right? And then some other gentleman, Wakili Kodi Manyara, formed ODM, I think with connivance of people like my friends Chris Murungaru and I think the then Attorney General Kiraitu, not Attorney General, Minister for Constitutional Affairs, because they wanted to split the Orange movement. Because we tried to register ODM Kenya, ODM, and then we are told, no.
ODM exists.
There's another ODM. So we say ODM Kenya. And I remember the late General Nkaiseri holding hands from Parliament to go to Sharia House looking for the certificate of registration of ODM Kenya. And it was then posted to Kinamanzo and others. So we were together in ODM Kenya. I remember I was in Halifax in Canada. And I told Najib Balala in Kisumu that time, announced that ODM, the Orange Movement, is going to be a party. So, in a way, from the background...
So you're saying you're not the one who split...
No, absolutely
not. From Raila, it was the other way around.
No, it was the other way around.
So
Raila bought, if you like, he didn't buy, I can't remember. I don't have evidence that he bought. But this other ODM, became an easy vehicle. Because we did not even know how to, I keep on saying, we didn't even know how to divide the orange. All right? So he took an orange, complete orange. We took one slice. We called it, at least if you looked at that orange, when I ran in 207, the orange was slashed.
Jumbo slice.
Sliced. So we didn't even know how to do that. It was very unfortunate. We didn't have the time. And this is why I'm now convinced these political decisions need to be taken early enough so there'll be no confusion. You see, what happens is the urgency to move in certain direction, and some people then get pushed into some corners, which are unfortunate. So this time around, we the coalition is there. We need to be able to settle our situation in our situation rooms, so that the country knows what is going to happen in 2027 or earlier.
Okay, or earlier. I think that we keep using that, might be a buzzword for this morning, but all right.
I'll tell you the reason. I keep on saying earlier. We haven't brought to a conclusion what happened in 2022. All right? And if you allow me, as a co-chair of the National Dialogue Committee, we had 4 points. Our side of the coalition had 4 issues to deal with. Number 1 issue was the cost of living, the high cost of living, which Kenyans are still suffering from. The number 2 issue was bringing to an end the matter of what happened in 2022, never mind the court process, and of course, we had to take judicial notice of what happened, but we needed to do an audit of 2022 elections. What would happen today, Ndu and Eric, if, for example, because under our recommendations, William Ruto and Raila Odinga are supposed to nominate each of them to appoint reputable audit firms to really look at the process of what happened in 2022. Suppose some overwhelming revelation comes to the fore. Would you still say you wait until 2027, or would you not rather resolve that issue? That's one possibility. That's one possibility. The rest, of course, you leave to God. Because the country is still hurting. The country has not healed from what happened. This problem of stolen elections every so often is unacceptable. The country had the election, the best election, as I said, which was adjudged the fairest in 2002. And since that time, what has happened? In 2007,
there have been stolen elections.
In 2007, the country even blew up. And I had the most difficult task of going to convince the world that our perpetrators in court, suspects, should at least be tried at home. And they came up and said, lobbied Parliament, don't be vague, go to The Hague. And what happened? Since that situation, this country has really not been the same.
Okay, so let's look at a situation where you talk about the fact that, now without the urgency of situation is why you've been able to then say, look, candidacy for presidency is mine. Okay.
Well, I'm not saying it's mine.
Well, you will be a candidate.
I like that. I think I should appoint you my negotiator.
We can talk about that later. But look, so here you say, I am putting myself out there.
Yes.
previously they've been able to talk you off that position, or you've been able to accept to step down from the position where you've said you want to be president before. And many would say their hopes were dashed because then you took yourself out of the running because somebody could speak to you. What would be different about this time? Could somebody else who wants to be president still not come to Kalonzo Musyoka and say, you know what, let's have a discussion. You step down in order for this to happen. It's happened not once, not even twice. It's happened severally. What's different about this time?
I'll tell you what is different. By the way, you have heard of a legal jargon, a fluxion of time. Yeah, the time sometimes resolves some of these issues, all right? What happened in 2022, for example, and I think it's public knowledge that my brother Raila Odinga and myself had agreed in 2017 that whether we won or lost,
the next election,
whether we won or lost, he was going to support me
For the next.
in 2022. We were very clear, okay? But that then, circumstances then changed, necessitating Raila Odinga's candidature. And you can imagine how awkward, on what kind of awkward position I found myself in. That's why I said we will go to the ballot, okay? And if you remember, I said I need time off because there's a big push. My party members and others who felt this is the next government, okay, and therefore we don't want to be out of government. But the thing about Kenyans feeling they don't need to be in government or in government is a misnomer. Because whether you're in opposition or you're in the ruling government, you are Kenyans. Provided you get your rights under the law. That's why we insist on the rule of law, so that Kenyans, whether they're in opposition or in government, get services. Now, back to your question. I thought of what happened in 2007, okay, at some stage. And I realized if I run now, this is according to the consultations. By the way, we've been very consultative. When you talk of Kalonzo Musyoka, I want you to know behind me and my candidature are millions of Kenyans. And I need to consult them every step of the way. A lot of them felt, don't allow a situation where you run to the ballot, the country blows up again, you get blamed, that like happened in 2007. That informed the decision to say, okay, if this is it, let me now unconditionally support my brother Raila Odinga and my sister Mother Karua. And I did everything I could as a person, as a party leader, to deliver. And I think Kenyans know we delivered.
So you were not bullied into a position?
No bullying. It cannot be bullying. No, it cannot be bullying. But there are strong feelings, very strong feelings, that we needed to form this juggernaut. Okay? And of course, Kenyans know that it was a very difficult issue. It remains a very difficult issue. We actually don't know
today. It was a difficult issue. What is this? Because you're saying there were compelling other forces that then led us to having Raila as candidate again and not you. What is this? What is it that made Raila not say, we have a deal?
President. This was a transition election. Uhuru Kenyatta
it was always going to be a transition election.
No. I mean, the next election, if William Ruto would want to run again, okay, will not be a transition election. But after that, in 2032, assuming he wins, which is difficult, because I see him strictly being a one-term president, okay, and that is debatable even.
What I'm saying is, after 2018, 2022 was always going to be a transition election.
Okay, fine, transition election. We set up for a transition election. And here was a president who is leaving office, and he felt he wanted to have a certain legacy. Uhuru Kenyatta, in exercise of his own constitutional right, chose to support Raila Odinga. Okay? And therefore, you can imagine, with that push, on the one hand, my colleagues, Weta and my colleague Mudavadi, have been wooed into joining Kenya Kwanza. Okay? And we were a very strong coalition. In fact, we won several by-elections as One Kenya coalition. If Kenyans can remember,
Yes,
the
we do.
senatorial contest in Machakos, another by-election in Western Kenya.
Matungu.
I think 2 of them, Matungu, all right, as One Kenya Alliance.
Yep.
So you can imagine my sense of disappointment. But I said, I'll fight on, and because integrity is
So,
everything.
Kalonzo, were you then pushed out of the race?
No, I wouldn't say pushed
I'm
out.
trying to understand this.
I talked
you and
about
Raila,
consultation.
you and Raila had an agreement,
Yeah.
all right?
Mm-hmm.
A gentleman's agreement, which I think we were even seeing some documents going round. That
I gave copies of it actually to some.
it was
made it
even
public.
Yeah, it was a
I made
public.
it public, and my brother Raila was very unhappy with that. But
Yeah.
you know, that is, I had to bring it out of my chest.
So there was that agreement.
Yeah.
And at some point, I believe that even you had mentioned to Uhuru, you know what, we have an agreement.
Yeah.
And Raila should have mentioned to Uhuru, we have an agreement.
Yeah.
But you're saying that the exiting incumbent had such a strong sway that this agreement was moot.
No. He didn't have to address the agreement. He was dealing with Raila Odinga as his possible successor. And of course, made all the necessary pushing and lobbying, okay? So lobbying is not pushing, okay? And I, on the other hand, I was consulting. Remember I said, I'm taking a week off. And actually I was pictured looking after my cows,
Yep.
all right, in the ranch, looking at the animals, because I needed to breathe and to consult and reflect. In some of these heavy matters, you have to introspect. You have to pray, like I do pray.
Yeah.
Okay. Pray over a situation. And I can tell you, prayer can work miracles. So my heart was clear that I was going to support Raila Odinga third time, unconditionally. And as you heard me say, I did that.
What would be different this time?
Well,
If you're met with the same kind of conversation where somebody's asking you once again
Yeah.
to give way for another, whereby today,
to give now way
Why?
for who?
well,
Another.
whomever it could be.
Another.
Could be Raila again.
It could be
I
Raila
think-
Odinga
I think-
again.
I
It could
think
be
it could
anybody
be-
else. But it seems as though
My lobby
because you
team.
wanted to be you took the gentlemanly position
Yeah.
and said, look at the situation of the country. What you
Yes,
said today.
that's right.
Look at the way in which Kenyans are thinking, behaving, acting today, and because of that, let me then throw my support behind somebody else. What's to say that this will not happen again?
I think it's, you remember I talked about a fluctuation of time? Time. And it's not, doesn't remain constant. Time is moving. And with it, I think the majority of Kenyans know that although this has been taken against me, when I once said that I'll be a fool or something to that effect, right?
Yes.
Because those remarks were made at that particular time, taking into consideration the environment, the political environment. But now, as you have heard me say, we have a bit of time to resolve these things so that we know before the end of 2024, I've actually said this before, in 2024, when the next contest will be defined in 2024. So we must be very clear. Let us now go to the negotiating table and agree between ourselves. At least we have a coalition, and I believe in that coalition. And I'll do everything I can to sustain the unity of Azimio la Umoja One Kenya. And we have also taken the view that strong Wiper is a strong Azimio. A strong ODM is a strong Azimio. A strong DAP Kenya is a strong Azimio. Okay? A strong KANU is a strong Azimio la Umoja One Kenya. And the other parties, which are members of the coalition.
How
so
long?
that's why you're going to see yesterday in our National Executive Council, we're going now to enhance the level of, enlisting new members. And in fact, even identifying those members who may want, Kenyans who want to run on the Wiper ticket during the next election. So the general election that will then ensue will be determined in 2024. I've said that. And I think this is where...
What are the signs that we should look out for then this year? The signs.
We'll negotiate. We'll agree. And I think all of us are in agreement. We cannot wait and begin to haggle at the end who is going to be the flag bearer. This has to be settled now. And this will be the difference. So that the country will know, because William Ruto, on the other hand, keeps on saying, you remember he was laughing at our coalition.
Walete
When there was
Kalonzo.
walikuwa anasema, we remember he used to say, I think in Homa Bay, he said something like, inaonekana sasa ni my brother Kalonzo. ndio
If it is
tutakutana
not
naye."
you who is the flag bearer, will you leave? If it is not you who is the flag bearer,
No,
will you leave
we
the coalition?
We can only deal with that. I don't think so. I believe in this coalition. And again, if you live in this country and do, you will know that this is the time for this Kalonzo Musyoka to give it a second trial after 2007.
Do you see? Do you see
When
Azimio
I was
surviving?
calling all of us to serious action, all right, a 24-hour, 24/7 working nation. Because how else are we going to deal with this problem of unemployment? And so confusion with William calling his hustlers now, even abandoning them altogether with high taxes, can't even put food on the table. Okay, so we are very clear where we are going, and I can tell you without even jumping the gun, if the issue is to be put on the table, which of us will be the flag bearer? I think we are well positioned.
We will go into the news and then we come back and continue this conversation. And question that I want to ask is whether you think the Azimio One Kenya alliance will survive to the next general election. We will deal with 2027 here in this room because that's what we know as the next election. Whether the Azimio One Kenya coalition, it's coalition, not alliance. Azimio One Kenya coalition will
it's actually
survive.
a political party. There's a bit of confusion.
Party.
We'll be debunking it.
Okay.
Coalition political party
Alliance.
will survive up to 2027 with everything else that's happening. There's a Kamwene conversation happening on one side. There is a ODM people saying no, but we are strong, but why do we need the others? So all these things. The Honorable Stephen Kalonzo Musyoka is our guest this morning. Keep it here. He'll still stay on after the news. It's 9 a.m.